Counsel Keith Murray.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Keith Murray, Revocation, Todd. Who's sitting to my right?
Good afternoon. With Counsel Keith Murray.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Keith Murray, Revocation, Todd.
With Counsel Keith Murray.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Keith Murray, Revocation, Todd. Who's sitting to my right?
Good afternoon. Yeah, absolutely. Opening statement.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a case of suitability as to whether the appellant has the essential character and temperament necessary to carry a pistol in public so as not to jeopardize the public safety. The evidence is based on a single incident of hindering prosecution and threatening while the appellant was in possession of a loaded pistol, which caused a discretionary revocation of her pistol permit. The criminal charges appear to have been not lead. However, I will present a member of the Bridgeport Police Department to provide the details of the incident. Based on the poor judgment of the appellant, the Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Service and Public Protection requests this board to affirm the revocation.
Your opening statement.
My opening statement is that the charges were in fact nollied. They were nollied because the complaining witness refused to show up in court because he lied about the underlying facts of the case. The underlying facts, a little more specifically, are that Ms. Todd's boyfriend, Anthony Davis, threatened the complaining witness with a firearm in the house of his mother because his mother was doing drugs with the complaining witness. Yes, sir.
That's a good...
Get rid of pronouns.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The him and her and they.
I apologize.
That's a good brief opening statement.
Oh, sure. I'm going to call Officer Carl Orovitz. Officer Orovitz, please state your name and spell it for record.
My name is Carl Oravitz. Carl, C-A-R-L. Last name O', capital R-A-V-I-T-Z.
And how long have you been employed as what agency employs you?
Bridgeport Police Department.
And how long have you been so employed as a Bridgeport police officer?
30 plus years.
Have you received training in the investigation of criminal acts?
Yes.
Would you say your experiences of investigating criminal cases are less than or more than 25 investigations?
More.
Were you acting in your official capacity as a Bridgeport police officer on August 4th, 2014?
Yes.
Do you recall the incident involving the appellant, Letitia Todd?
Yes.
Please tell the board the information you developed during your investigation involving the appellant.
I was dispatched on a call. Victim. We met with the victim, and he stated that, a.k.a. Alvin,
What type of case were you called to investigate?
threatening with a handgun.
And where did this incident occur?
This occurred at 860 Park Avenue, Unit 3.
Was it an active scene or did it require follow-up investigation?
Active.
And who was the complainant?
The complainant was Mr. Staten.
What's his first name?
Terrence?
Terrence Staten? Okay. And did you meet with the complainant?
Yes.
And what did he tell you occurred?
He told me that he was threatened with a handgun in the above address by a.k.a. Alvin, which is Anthony A. Davis.
But did he know his name when he told you that?
Just by Alvin.
Okay. So did you meet him at the location where this incident occurred?
No.
Okay. Where did you meet him initially?
I met him at the 580 area, which was several blocks south of the incident.
Okay. So did you take a written statement at that point, or did he just verbally tell you what occurred?
At that point, he just verbally told me.
Okay. And what again did he tell you occurred when you first met him?
He said that he was threatened with a handgun, that he was going to be shot by Alvin.
Okay. Okay. And what did you do as a result of that information that he just conveyed to you?
Myself and two backup units took Mrs. Denton down to the location of the incident, and as we pulled up, we observed a tan SUV with a male and a female putting items in the back. Mr. Stanton at that point told me that the male individual is the one that threatened him with the gun.
Okay, I want to stop right there, because I didn't ask you this question. When you met with Mr. Stanton initially, you heard counsel's remarks that he actually lied and came up with these, this was a fabrication.
I heard what you said. Yeah.
Okay. Upon your initial meeting with Mr. Alvin, did he do or say anything that led you to believe that he was being genuine?
Yes.
What was that?
He said that he feared for his life.
Okay, now I'm sure a lot of people make that claim. Is there anything else that you saw of him that indicated that he was actually telling you the truth?
The information he gave me about the gun and the individual and where it took place.
Okay. Did he appear calm to you?
No, he was all worked up over this incident.
He was worked up. What do you mean by that? Explain
I mean
it to
that he was all nervous and everything. That's
was
why he feared
nervous?
for his life. He feared for his life, so he was all in fear.
Okay, now you heard there was allegations that he was about to do drugs with the suspect's mother. Could it have been the case that he was using any type of narcotics?
He didn't appear to be.
Okay, so let's move forward now. You respond to the location of the incident
Yes.
with Mr. Alvin in your cruiser?
Yes.
Okay.
You mean Mr. Stanton?
Mr. Stanton.
Stanton.
Alvin Stanton.
Right. Yeah, Stanton.
Okay. You show up on scene, and again, you saw, he points out.
He points out to the male individual and said that's the one that had threatened him.
Okay. Now, go ahead and tell the board what transpired thereafter.
Backup units got out and approached the individual, Alvin, and gave him a pat down for their safety and pulled a knife out of his pocket and put him in the back seat of one of the cars, uncuffed until we sorted this out.
Okay.
At that point, when he turned around, Mrs. Todd took off. One of the officers got in his cruiser and pursued her, stopped her, and brought her back.
Let me see if I get this straight. You guys pull up. You have lights on?
Yes,
You have your marked cruisers?
yes.
How many cruisers?
There was three, and then the fourth one came later. It was a sergeant.
All of you are converge upon these two individuals as they're on the side of the street?
Yes.
There's three cruisers there, lights are on, and you're patting down the suspect,
Correct?
and the appellant gets in her vehicle and leaves?
Yes.
Did anybody tell her to stay?
No.
Okay, so she flees.
Right.
She goes.
Right.
Okay. Was there any reason to believe that she could not leave? I mean, other than the three cruisers
Well,
there with the lights on?
I would believe that an individual would see all this happening, and an individual that's with her is put in the backseat of a police car, that individual would stay there and not just drive off.
Or at least ask if they were free to leave.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. So then what happened?
So then when they brought Miss Todd back, after trying to convince her to come back, she was pretty negative on why she had to come back. But when she finally did come back, the officer explained that the ongoing investigation about threatening of a handgun.
Can somebody fill in that hole, please? It's like Black's Foundation. I mean, now we have, evidently there was some sort of communication with Ms. Todd about coming back to the scene. I heard nothing about that.
Okay, sure. What do you know, when she left the scene, did you go after her?
No.
Did another officer go after her?
Assistant unit, right.
Okay. Can you testify as to what transpired when she left the scene and you're still at the scene with the suspect?
I could from his addendum to my report.
Okay, well, what does he convey in his report then?
He conveys that he pursued her with siren and lights on, and finally, after going with quite a distance,
What's quite a distance?
a couple blocks,
Okay.
pulled alongside her and told her that she had to come back to the scene.
That she had to come back to the scene. Okay. Can you talk about what transpired at the stop?
No.
Okay. Did the officer, was she, let me ask you this, was she forthright in coming back to the scene when the officer requested her to?
No, she was very hesitant. She felt that she shouldn't have to come back. She didn't do anything wrong.
Okay. Did he take her into custody at that point?
No, just brought her back to the scene.
Okay, so he asked her to come back to the scene, and she does.
Right.
Okay, so now she's back at the scene. Okay, so what transpires once she's back at the scene?
She's back at the scene. She's still in the vehicle, and the officer is advising her that she has to come and step out of the vehicle, and she didn't feel like she had to. She went back and forth with the officer, hesitating to get out of the vehicle. Finally, when he said there's going to be interference with what we're doing, then she stepped out of the vehicle. He had her step on the curb, and he explained to her that there's an ongoing investigation here about a threatening of a handgun, and
Did anyone ask her if she had a handgun, either at the previous scene or at the, at the site when she was stopped, finally stopped, and asked to come back?
No,
Nobody asked her if she had a handgun?
no,
In the vehicle?
no,
Okay. She comes back to the scene. Did anyone ask her if she had a handgun?
no.
Okay. So what transpired?
They said that the officer said he was searching the vehicle for a weapon.
Okay.
He had her pull her T-shirt she had on tight around her waist to show if there was a weapon bulge underneath there, and she brought her T-shirt up to her waistband. He didn't see any weapon. He said, observe as I searched the vehicle. He searched the immediate area of the vehicle, which is the under the driver's seat, the console, the back of the seat. When he looked in the back of the seat, there was a purse that looked like it was flung in the back. It had a snap on the top of the purse, which would close it. It was open, and he observed through his experience a rear sight of a handgun.
Okay. Then what happened?
Then, at that point, they cuffed her and put her in the car.
Okay.
At that point, she says then that she had a permit and she had, it was her gun.
Okay. Did she offer any explanation as to what happened during this incident?
No.
Okay. Was the gun loaded?
The gun had a magazine of 5 rounds in it, but none in the chamber.
Okay. Now, why did you folks...
The magazine and the gun.
Yes.
Why did you folks... why did the Bridgeport police arrest Miss Todd?
Because
She had the gun. It was in her purse.
Correct.
It was in her possession. So just explain to where's the connection?
the victim identified the gun when it was brought over to him as the gun that was used, being pointed at him and threatened.
Okay, well, what does the victim tell the Bridgeport Police Department regarding the incident that transpired? Did it happen on the side of the road? Did it happen... Where did the threatening, the whole ordeal with the gun happen? Explain it to the board, please.
He said he was at 860 Park Avenue in Unit 3.
And who lives there?
Ms. Morales,
And who is she?
his friend. And he said that in the past he's there to take her shopping. In the past he's taken her to get food.
Okay.
At that point he's watching TV in the bedroom, and Alvin comes in and tells him to leave.
How is Alvin related to whoever's in it?
Alvin is the AKA he uses, which he knows him by. The victim is actually Anthony A. Davis.
Okay. And so Anthony Davis comes into the apartment,
Yes.
and what transpires?
Well, like I said, he told him that he was to leave.
But you have to...
Who said him?
Who's him? You have to say, who's telling who what?
Alvin told Mr. Stanton that he had to leave.
Well, whose apartment is it?
It's Miss Morales, his mother's.
Okay.
And he
Who's
was
his?
staying there with her.
Whose mother?
Alvin.
The suspect's
Correct.
mother. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Stan is visiting his friend who is Alvin's mother.
Correct.
Okay.
And who told who to leave?
Mrs. Morales' son, Alvin,
Yeah.
told Mr. Stanton to leave.
He told his mother's friend to leave.
Correct.
He's the victim in the case.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So what transpires?
The mother said, he's staying.
Okay.
Alvin said, I'll be back. He leaves the room. He returns with a handgun. He points the handgun at Mr. Stanton and tells him he's going to shoot him. At that point, Mr. Stanton leaves, goes a number of blocks, and calls the police.
Did you ascertain at this point where Letitia was
Yes,
in conjunction with everybody else?
yes.
And where was that?
Mr. Stanton said in his field statement that Letitia, Mrs. Todd, was standing behind Alvin as he was being threatening and not making any attempt at all to have him give her the gun or put it down. And Miss Morales, the mother of Alvin, was there trying to defuse the situation.
Okay, so now Miss Todd is in the room
Behind,
at the time of the alleged threat.
correct.
Okay. Sergeant.
Okay. Then what does Mr. Stanton do?
Mr. Stanton gets up and leaves.
Okay. What does he do?
He goes a number of blocks south on Park Avenue and calls us.
And that's when you report the scene. Okay, couple more questions. Does Mr. Stanton have any relation to Alvin, the suspect, or Miss Todd? How well does he know either one of them?
In my knowledge, I believe he doesn't have any knowledge of either one.
Who is he associated with in that apartment?
Alvin's mother, Miss Morales.
Okay. That's it. That's the crux of it. I mean, we could go on to what happened with her, as we know.
I think
I'd
that's
like to question him. Do I have the opportunity to question the officer?
You absolutely will.
Okay. I'll just follow it up. Okay. Was she arrested that day?
Yes,
What charges?
Threatening in the second and hindering prosecution.
Okay.
there you go.
That's basically. And was the gun seized as evidence?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Sure.
That's it.
Okay. Attorney Murray, any questions you have of the officer?
Yes. You stated that Mr. Stanton was nervous. Could he have been nervous about lying to the police?
Objection.
And what is the basis of the objection?
What? I'll withdraw that objection. That's fine.
Could he have been nervous about lying to the police?
He could have been.
Could he have been jonesing for drugs that he was going to do with...
Could you repeat that?
Could he have been jonesing? Could he have been under withdrawal symptoms, anticipating doing drugs with the suspect's mother that he did not get to do because he left the apartment?
He didn't appear to be under withdrawal.
He could have been.
Sure.
And again, you stated that Ms. Todd was not asked specifically to stay at the scene. Is that correct?
Correct.
When you say, you use the phrase, she took off, did her tires squeal?
No,
Did she exceed the speed limit?
I didn't have a radar.
In your experience as a police officer, have you engaged in speed traps?
No,
Have you ever pulled over a car for speeding that you didn't have a radar gun for?
no,
And so you don't have any personal experience or expertise engaging the speed of a moving vehicle as it's moving in front of you without any type of specialized equipment?
being a police officer, I could tell if someone's going 25 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour. Yes, I could.
Okay. So when you say she took off, it didn't look like she was peeling out, or her
No.
tires didn't squeal. She wasn't
No.
exceeding the speed limit on the street to leave the scene.
Correct.
Okay. Again, you didn't answer really. You stated that she was pretty negative when the other officer stopped her. You said it was a couple of blocks away. Was it 1 block away, 2 blocks away?
I don't know exact number, but it was a distance away.
When she peeled out, when she left the scene, you said peeled out. How long did it take for the officer to get back to his car and follow her?
I believe I didn't say she peeled. I believe
Or
I
you
said
said
she
took off.
took off.
Took off.
Right.
I'd withdraw that.
Wait.
When she took off, the other officer went back to his car, correct?
Yes,
He got into his car,
correct.
started it. Was it already on?
It was on.
And went off after her.
With lights and siren.
How far had she gotten by the time he even got back to his car?
I would say,
I would object that. Do you know the answer?
not absolutely, no.
Okay.
So, just go back, what was the question?
The question was, he stated that Ms. Todd was pulled over a couple of blocks later after she took off from the scene. What I'm trying to establish is, did she
No, what
know
was
she
the
was going to
question?
follow?
I don't-
The question was, how long did it take him to get back to his car and leave after she had pulled out?
It's speculative.
That's the question.
Right, it's speculative.
Was it any more speculative than him testifying how far away they stopped the vehicle? Which was your question to him. So this is a follow-up
Right.
directly to, in correlation to distance, his time.
Well, if he knows the answer, then I don't know how specific counsel wants to get on the answer, response.
I don't either. I'm just dealing with the question, whether or not the question is proper, and there's an objection to the question. And, you know, it's within the scope of direct. And certainly you asked him about a distance, and if you're going to say he doesn't have the ability to testify as to time, then I don't know how he has the ability to testify to distance. So I guess we could throw both out and go from there.
I'll address it on redirect.
Okay, so you're going to withdraw the objection?
Correct.
Okay.
And approximately, I'll phrase it this way, approximately how far down the street was Miss Todd by the time the officer pulled out of his spot at the curbside?
100 feet.
Okay. And you said that she was pulled over within a couple of blocks, 2 blocks?
If you allow me to look in his addendum. May I quote this?
I don't have an objection. It's not my role to make an objection. Do you have an objection?
I have no objection.
Yeah. You can quote it.
I then jumped in my patrol car and attempted to catch up to the said SUV using my lights and siren. I then observed said vehicle turn north on Lafayette Boulevard, at which time I pulled up beside her and told her she had to return to the scene, that we were investigating a crime, and then followed the black female later ID'd as Taisha Todd back to the scene. Mrs. Todd then parked in
I think he's read a sufficient amount.
Yeah.
So it appears from that statement that she pulled over when the police officer pulled up behind her. She did not lead this police officer on a chase.
alongside her.
But he pulled up alongside her, but she did not lead this police officer on a chase.
No.
Thank you. And you stated that the report stated she was pretty negative when she was interacting with that police officer when she was pulled over?
Yes, if you want me to go back to this a minute, and I can kind of tell you what he exactly said.
Please.
Since he was there, and I wasn't. Okay, she's back at the scene, and he...
Okay, I'm going to stop right there because I'm trying to address the question of how she reacted to the officer who tried to bring her back to the scene. And you stated at that point that she was pretty negative, but you actually have no knowledge of what transpired at that point, do you?
In the addendum, I do.
In the addendum.
Well, does the addendum expressly deal with, does it say that Ms. Todd was negative?
Let me read it. Let me see. Would you want me to quote it or just give you a direct answer?
Well, I'd prefer that you quote it, but
I'll do that.
constrained to that.
Negative.
Mrs. Todd then hesitated to get out of the said vehicle and stated, "Why do I have to get out of my car? I didn't do anything wrong."
That's at curbside when she came back to the scene. That's not what transpired when the officer pulled her over.
Oh, you want to
2
know
blocks
at that
away.
point? I'm sorry.
That was the question.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Just
That's okay.
misunderstood it. It doesn't say. I was referring to her being negative when she was back at the scene, not when he originally pulled her over.
And when you said now you're saying she was negative back at the scene, she was questioning the officer as to why she needed to get out of her car, correct?
She was questioning why she had to get out of the car even though the officer told her why.
Did the officer order her out of the car?
It doesn't say order.
Okay. And she came right back to the scene. You stated that the officer brought her back?
Followed her back.
Followed her back. So she actually drove back to the scene in her own car?
Correct.
She was not placed in the police cruiser. She was not taken back to the
No.
scene. She drove back in her own car.
Correct.
And she questioned the officer did not order her to get out of the car, but she asked why she needed to get out of the car.
Correct.
Okay. And she was not asked if she had a gun?
Correct.
And when you say that the purse looked like it was flung in the back, does that, whether or not it was flung in the back or placed in the back, is that dispositive of anything in your investigation? And how does a flung purse look as opposed to a purse that was... I'm sorry, I thought we were going to...
Well, you said no.
You said no. So is there some difference in the demeanor of a purse that's been flung or placed that is dispositive here?
It could be.
Okay, I'll let that interesting. When you approached Mr. Staton, when you initially arrived at the complaint, you already... Let me rephrase that.
When you initially arrived at the scene, you mean?
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw that because I was inartfully phrasing it. In the police report, it states that you showed the gun to Mr. Staton and asked him if this was the gun. Is that correct?
I showed the gun to Mr. Stanton, and he said that was the gun.
Did you ever ask him to describe any gun that was pointed at him before you showed him Ms. Todd's gun?
He stated in his field statement
No,
that...
That wasn't the question.
Okay, no.
No. So, for all you know, you showed him a gun and he said that was the gun.
Correct.
You didn't have any other... Outside of showing him the gun, he gave no description. You didn't ask him... Withdraw, I'm asking kind of more questions. You didn't ask him to describe a gun that was pointed at him before you showed him Ms. Todd's gun.
Correct.
So he could have been identifying the gun just because you put it in front of him and said, is this the gun?
Possible.
Possible. Thank you. You said Mr. Staton, to the best of your knowledge, doesn't know Anthony Davis or Letitia Todd outside of this specific incident.
Correct.
On what do you base that knowledge? Did you ask him?
No.
And there's nothing in the report that indicates you asked him?
Correct.
So he could have known them for years before this?
Correct.
Okay. And I would like to ask you, did Mr. Davis's mother state to the police that she did not see a firearm used in the course of this alleged threatening?
Yes.
She did.
Please repeat that. She did not see a firearm.
The police report states the mother did not see a firearm. And she is the only other witness in this case?
Correct.
Wait a minute, you got, what witnesses you got?
You got the
You
victim.
got Helen, you got Mom, you got Alvin, and you got Mrs. Todd.
Right.
That's 4 people in the room when the
Correct.
alleged threat was
Only
made.
the victim was the one who
Victor
said
is the only one so far that's seen a gun.
so far.
Correct. Thank you. Did you or any other police officer at any time see a gun in the hand of Mr. Davis or Ms. Todd?
No.
I have no further questions right now.
I just need to address a couple
Alvin and Anthony and
points
Mr.
that
Davis are the
counsel
same people. Yes.
brought up.
Can I?
Sure. You're running.
Yeah. I just
I do
want to
have a
step on
couple
your toes.
questions.
Absolutely. I want to ask about the gun. Did you find the gun in the purse in the back seat?
I saw it there. I wasn't the original officer who found it, no.
Okay. Did you see it before it was disturbed? I expect at some point it was disturbed because the gun was taken out of the purse.
I just saw the back end of it where the rear side is sticking up.
Okay, so you saw it in the back seat when it was in this
Not the
state.
back seat.
Okay. Where was it?
On the floor behind the driver's seat.
On the floor or in the purse?
The purse with the gun
Yes.
is on the floor
The
behind.
purse with the gun.
Correct.
Floor, purse, gun,
You
rear
got it.
sight, right?
Yes.
Behind the driver's seat. So did you see it on the floor behind the driver's seat before it was extricated by officers?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see it when it was taken out of the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see it as it was taken out of the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Was the gun in a holster?
No.
So it was loose, just sitting at the top of the purse.
Down in the purse with the rear end of it sticking out. That's rear sight.
And are you of the, is it your opinion, based upon your viewing of the scene, that the firearm came into the possession of the individual who allegedly threatened and was then placed in the purse after that threatening? Is that what you think happened here?
We're only speculating. Correct?
Absolutely, but
However he got a hold of the gun, it was pointed at the suspect, and then it wound up back in the purse. Who put it there, I don't know.
You say back in the purse.
Right. Because it was in the purse when the vehicle came back.
Isn't that an allegation
absolutely.
rather than a fact? Sure.
Yeah, I just asked about his opinion. Any other questions over here from the board?
Yes.
Yes, Peter.
Page 3 or 4 of the supplemental report. Last paragraph.
Is the supplemental the one that's in longhand?
Yeah.
I thought he was
This
reading.
is the original report. This is the original.
That's this one. It starts with Mr. Davis checked with CADS. Shows he had been convicted for multiple felony charges, including whatever. And when you're guilty, is that referring to Mr. Stanton?
No, that's referring to
Alvin Davis.
Anthony A. Davis, a.k.a. Alvin.
Next question. If you were out and had a van.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cook, I couldn't hear that.
Okay. If you were out and had a van, and were in and out of the van and had a firearm, and were carrying a purse, wouldn't you feel that behind the driver's seat might be a place to put it so it could not be taken from the van while you were around back? Where would you store a pistol if it was in a pocketbook and you were in a van and had to leave the van?
I don't know that you can answer.
Yeah.
Would you expect somebody to leave it on the front seat of the van?
No, I wouldn't expect someone to
You would
have
expect
it in
them.
plain view. No.
You would expect them to put it out of plain view. Right?
Correct.
Was it in plain view behind the driver's seat?
Once the officer looked behind the seat, yes. Standing up, okay, I get what you're saying. No.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Peter? You're going to get it. You're going to have your opportunity. Any other questions from the board?
Just, I couldn't find the report. I'm assuming Mrs. Morales was interviewed,
By the other officers.
and we don't have subs of the other officers in our packet. We just have this officer's initial. Did Mrs. Morales confirm Mr. Stanton's story regarding the threatening with the firearm?
Oh, from what I read in the addendum, no.
Okay, so she said the incident did not occur.
May I clarify?
Sure.
She states that,
And I'm reading.
and I can read this.
Okay, yeah, we don't have that. That's
Why don't we have that?
yeah, I'm all.
I actually
This
don't
is-
have, this is page number 3.
Okay.
That's
And
no, there's
he's
three.
reading from a typewritten report that we don't have.
This is sometimes when I deal with it, I get.
Okay, I do have that.
That's why we're going to be dealing with discovery in this very shortly.
Yeah.
Sure. Would you mind reading that?
The statement is, responding officer spoke to suspect's mother, Deidre Morales, Sorry. I grew up with four older brothers, all like that, who resides at 860 Park Avenue, Unit 3, and she stated that her son, Anthony Davis, had threatened to smash her face, that he had mental health issues, and then also threatened the victim, Terrence Staton, but that she didn't see a firearm.
Okay, thank you.
Can we have that entered into evidence if we don't have it?
Well, since
I would
it's
like
been,
to look at that.
You want this? I can just take a picture.
do you have a copy of it?
I do not. I mean, we could make copies, I guess.
Yeah.
Can we make copies?
What,
You know what, it's evidence, we need to actually have copies.
yeah, so hold on. Let's take a break. Chief, can you?
What do you want?
Copies.
Give me what you want, copies.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break so we can get some copies. Alright, so, we left off, and I believe Attorney Murray was asking questions.
I was finished, I believe. You're on
Sergeant D'Alessandro.
I had just asked a question regarding the Mrs. Morales' statement. That's where I think that's where we ended off.
Okay. Colonel, are you done?
I'm done. That was my only question.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board before we go to Sergeant? Okay, Sergeant.
I just want to ask a few follow-up questions here, and that is, all right. As far as Miss Todd leaving the scene, is it typical police, or is it standard police practice to, once they identify a crime scene, to secure a scene?
Yes.
Okay. And in this particular incident, is it the understanding of you or other Bridgeport police officers that the crime scene in this case included the persons, Alvin and Miss Todd, as well as the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. When she left the scene, was it imperative to try to control that portion of the scene?
Yes.
Okay. And when Miss Todd was returned back to the initial point of the crime scene, was she forthcoming with telling police officers anything about this case?
No.
Was she asked if officers could search the vehicle? Did officers ask her that, or tell her that they were going to search the vehicle?
They were going to search the immediate rear of the driver's seat.
Okay. Did she mention anything at all about being in possession of a firearm or having a pistol permit at all?
No.
Okay. At what point did officers become aware that there was a firearm inside the vehicle?
When the officer searching the vehicle looked behind the driver's seat, he saw it sticking up out of her purse on the floor there.
And she never mentioned it beforehand?
No.
Okay. Going back to when she was stopped after leaving the scene, did the officer tell her, do you know if the officer told her why she had to return to the scene?
I believe it's in his addendum here.
Okay, well, what was told to her as to the reason why she needed to return to the scene?
Could you repeat that last question?
What was told to her as to the reason she needed to return to the scene?
It says here that in his addendum, the officer that pulled her over said that we were investigating a crime. I then followed the black female, later identified to the scene.
I think in answer to the question, she was told that they were investigating a crime.
Correct.
Okay. Did he mention anything about a firearm?
No.
Okay. Do you recall anyone asking her if there was, whether there was a firearm in the vehicle?
No.
I already asked it.
I don't recall if he incident.
Long time.
Right.
The officer then advised Mrs. Todd again that...
There's no question.
Okay.
Was there any indication, anything that indicated that Mr. Stanton knew Mr. Davis or Ms. Todd prior to this incident?
Not that I believe.
Sorry, could you repeat that question again?
Was there any indication that Mr. Stanton knew Ms. Davis or Mr. Davis or Ms. Todd prior to this incident? And the answer was in the negative.
Did he know Ms. Todd's name, first name?
Just use her first name.
Which was what?
Felicia?
The answer is yes. He did know her first name.
Yes.
Anything else, Sergeant?
I'm working on it. Thank you. Is there... Did the Bridgeport Police Department search any other areas other than the vehicle?
No, not that I believe, because I was involved with Mr. Stanton, and their backup units were involved with the other two parties.
Was there any other guns or weapons found other than that?
Just a knife.
Just a knife? And that was the gun that was found in the purse was the only firearm that was found, discovered during this investigation?
Yes.
Okay.
What is, I mean, not to, trying to get, we're down into the weeds now. I mean, if they didn't look anywhere else, they didn't find any gun anywhere else, I mean, one could easily link that up and say they didn't find another gun because they didn't look anywhere else.
All right, that'll be it. Thank you.
Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever go into the apartment?
No.
Did any officer who was dispatched to the scene go into the apartment?
I'm not sure, but I believe possibly.
Can you consult your report to see if any officer went into the apartment?
Well, there's a point here where one of the assistant officers was talking to the mother, and I don't know if that was at the curb or in the apartment.
So you don't know if anyone who responded to this, any officer who responded to this actually went into the apartment and looked at the scene where the threatening was alleged to have taken place?
Correct.
So you don't know if the gun ever actually was even in the apartment, do you?
Only by the suspect.
Only by the suspect.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, by the victim. I'm sorry, by the victim. I rephrased that. Sorry.
Was Ms. Todd ever asked by an officer to consent to a search of her car?
I don't believe so.
And you've said a couple of times that you had no indication that Mr. Stanton knew knew Ms. Todd or Mr. Davis before this incident.
I believe not.
You believe that, but you have no basis on which to make that statement. You don't know if they knew each other before this or not.
No.
And when you stated there was a priority that you secure the scene, you didn't do that, did you?
No.
I believe I have no further questions.